Now, I've got another clip I want you to hear. I was in Victoria, British Columbia, where municipal officials from around the province were debating the decriminalization of marijuana. And take a listen to what one of the speakers had to say.
There's a lot of people employed in growing marijuana and trafficking it and transporting it. It also employs an awful lot of police and probation officers. And why would you devalue marijuana by making it decriminalized? What are all those poor people going to do?
Now, that, of course, is tongue-in-cheek, but it's the idea that a system, even a system that's not good, actually is functioning in a way that, I guess...
Now you said something crucial. This is maybe the fundamental message. When something appears to be undermining the system or subverting it, look at it closely. Maybe at a deeper level, it's part of the system. That's the big lesson I took from my socialist youth. I mean, when I was living in a communist country, how, black market and all those things that those in power were officially fighting, well, that's what enabled people to survive. Precisely through those illegal activities, the system maintained itself in a viable state. But another thing, this may shock you. I'm skeptical about these liberal attempts, let's legalize drugs and so on, because did you notice how the very same people who are for legalization, at least of soft drugs, are fanatical about even being more tough on smoking?
I've wondered about that myself.
Yeah, like why? Why is smoking elevated to almost, I would say, the absolute sin? I think today there are two sins, pedophilia and smoking. I don't smoke, and I am for all the tough measures against tobacco companies. But still, I think, I'm sorry to tell you that maybe, just maybe, drugs are nonetheless generally more dangerous. What is for us so irritating, as if we feel threatened by the figure of a chain smoker? I think it's ideology. I think smoking is a nice proof of how we don't really live in a consumerist society. We are solicited to consume, but in a safe way. That's my mantra. This idea of having the pleasure provided by a product, but deprived of its dangerous
and in
aspect.
fact, in New York, they want to ban soft drinks of a certain size. So what do you make of our society with those kinds of contradictions?
We want to be limitless consumerists, but we want to do it in the safe way. And what I am afraid of here is how this narcissistic economy, like enjoy, do it, but safely, is an expression of new type of subjectivity that I don't like, even in the matters of sex. I noticed passionate love is considered too risky. Like the idea is, okay, change partners, but take it easy. It's all this Buddhist pseudo-hedonist logic of don't get too involved with things. Do you know that dating and marriage agencies in France and in English language domain, the verb we use is to fall in love. They both base their propaganda, their publicity, playing with these words, and their slogan is, we will enable you to find yourself in love without the fall. But what disappears in this way is the very magic of love. For me, passionate love is the fall.
I'm going to bring this all the way back to Occupy. You seem to be saying that there may not be a way to change. The people who are asking for change don't know what that change is, and so there will not be the change that...
But I'm a little bit more of an optimist, precisely, paradoxically, because I'm even more a pessimist. But the world is changing. I mean, capitalism today is no longer capitalism 20 years ago. So my first thing, when people say things cannot change, my answer to them is, but they are changing like crazy all around the world.
Let me ask you something else. So a lot of people like the status quo. I mean, a lot of people didn't take part in Occupy.
The status quo.
But if you looked at the demonstrations in Tahrir Square, if you went along the edges, you could talk to people in Egypt who were opposed to what was happening. I'm not judging that. I'm just saying that existed, right? Isn't that part of the struggle, that in fact those who take to the streets think they represent everyone, but they don't?
I mean, let's be frank here, and I'm for the radical left. In a radical movement for change, revolution, in the most ecstatic moments, there were never more than 10, maybe 20% of the people. But what fascinated me in New York, it's how many people nonetheless silently sympathized. 2 days after my speech there on Zuccotti Park, a real Wall Street banker approached me that said, I work in a big bank there, but you are onto something. I see the problem you are describing. You are right. This is for me the true success of the movement.
Well, let me ask you.
This silent solidarity.
That speaks to something else. We tend to like to label people, in the media especially, right? But is it time to forget this left-right divide? Is that the wrong language now? Is something changing?
It depends on what we mean by left and right. If we mean this standard struggle in the last 200 years, then yes, I agree. We will have to think over this standard divide.
You're not looking for the answer. You're asking us to think about what the answers could be.
Yes. Even, ironically, when people ask me, am I still a Marxist? I say yes on condition that you turn around, the famous Thesis 11 on Feuerbach. Philosophers were interpreting too much the world, the time is to change it. I claim maybe the lesson for us now is the opposite one. Maybe in the 20th century we tried to change the world too much too quickly, and the time has come to think, to interpret it again.
And you're making us think too. Thank you for coming in.
I was very glad to be here. Thank you very much.